Good morning, my dear students. So, we are going to do one of the most beautiful poems, wonderful poems, like of which you have never studied in your academic life, nor will you study again. Such a poem it is. And the poet is also quite strange. His attitude is strange. His approach is strange. His poems are strange, but have great impact both on individuals and society. The poem we do is number 3 in our textbook, On Children by Khalil Gibran. To understand the poem, appreciate it better, it is good to have some knowledge about the background of the poet and the poem. Gibran was born in Lebanon. After the early schooling in Lebanon, he went to France for higher studies. He had a great taste and innate talent in writing poems and also in etching the pictures. In Paris, he had a wonderful teacher by name Mary Elizabeth Haskell. Very pretty, quite inspiring, and they had a wonderful relationship that words will not be able to express fully. The appreciation turned into attraction, and Gibran became bold to propose to Mary Haskell. She referred the proposal to her parents. They did not approve of it because of different culture, different language, different background. One a Lebanese boy, other a Parisian girl. She told, and Gibran said, fine. There's no further reaction, no revenge, no animosity, no hatredness, nothing. And the interesting thing, they continued this appreciation and affection lifelong, and to some extent to say even after his death. After his studies and apprentice in Paris, Gibran migrated to America, settled in New York. He started writing his famous poems, and he was an instant success. The most important poem is a collection that he published under the name The Prophet, containing 26 poems. This poem, On Children, is one among them. The poem has captivated mankind, captured the attention of mankind. More than 100 languages got this poem translated, and 20 million copies printed and sold out in English language alone. That shows the popularity. And even today, Gibran remains the third best-selling poet in the world after Shakespeare and Laozi. Gibran was famous in America. He was even called the Bard of Washington Street. In English language and literature, when we say bard, bard means poet, is understood William Shakespeare, the Bard on Avon. So even that great title was given to Gibran, and he was called the Bard of Washington Street. At the age of 48, Gibran dies. He had a death wish. His dead body must be buried in his native land, Lebanon, though he was an internationalist. Alongside, he was also a nationalist, and nationalism was burning in him. But the government of America couldn't bother about his last wish. He was buried there. So he died in the year 1931. But his death wish later was known to his most intimate friend Mary Elizabeth Haskell. She wanted to fulfill his death wish, but to exhume the body from America, transport it to Lebanon, and find an appropriate place for the burial of the dead body was a Herculean task. Mary alone couldn't do it. She gets the support of her younger sister Marina Haskell. Both raised funds. The dead body of Gibran was transported from America to Lebanon, and in Lebanon they purchased a monastery by name Mar Sarkis Monastery, a huge compound. And his dead body was buried there in the monastery, and today Masakis Monastery in Lebanon is Gibran's museum with all the collections of his paintings, poems, letters, and one of the most sought after tourist spots in Arabian countries. And his influence spread far and wide. In the first half of the 20th century, Gibran was the most influential poet who influenced the Arabian literature. And people in Arabian countries were all praised for him, and the great English actor was won many international awards, including different Oscars. Omar Sharif says that they all grew up as children with the cult of Gibran. Gibran was a cult, and they all grew up in that cult. So that was the influence Gibran had on people of his land. Now, coming to the poem also is very strange. The poem begins so dramatically. Just imagine, all of you have seen your mother. You know how the mother fondles her baby. As the poem begins, on the dramatic stage, a mother is holding her baby against her bosom. The most beautiful, the most divine sight on the earth is mother holding her baby against her bosom. Mother only can imagine the dreams she has for the child. Only a mother can sacrifice the entire life for the welfare and greatness of the child. The haunting melody of Lata Mangeshkar is the feeling of all the mothers. Chanda hai tu, mere suraj hai tu, o meri aankhon ka tara hai tu. So this is not only for the feeling of every mother. Her baby is the sun, her baby is the moon, her baby is the apple of the eyes. There's no limit for her dreaming. And she would be able to visualize the future of the baby at the instant. On such an occasion, there comes the prophet. The name of the collection of the poem is The Prophet. Prophet is in Islam a priest, a divine man who has got insight in the future, and they believe he can tell, looking at a person or a child, what its future would be. That is called a prophet. Prophet is one who can prophesy what is going to happen. So we speak of Muhammad Nabi, the prophet, divine man with an insight in the human heart, able to speak about the future. And the poem begins here. And a woman who held a baby against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." So the dramatic imagine mother at the center stage holding baby against her bosom with all dreams. At that time, a prophet comes. Mother is so happy. The prophet would be able to tell about the future of her child, and she is requesting with all devotion to the prophet, "Speak to us of children." Here woman stands for a mother. Speak to us of children. That is, tell me something about my child, my child, my child. That my. Now the prophet is giving an answer that shocks the mother and shocks all the people who read the poem, or to say the entire mankind is shocked. The prophet is giving the answer. He said, he means the prophet, said means answered, "Your children are not your children." Oh lady, you are asking me to tell you something about your child. But I want to tell you, your child is not your child. Just like a stab wound in her heart, your child is not your child. In Shakespeare, all we read, the mischievous elves exchange the babies. Even today, in many hospitals, it happens. Children are exchanged by mischievous nurses and some other unsocial elements. So the mother is wondering what this holy man is telling. Your child is not your child. Then where is my child? Whose child it is? And she is unable to find an answer. Still she is in the shock, and the prophet is explaining to her. Now, they are the sons and daughters of life longing for itself. Lady, this is not your child. Children are not the children of their parents, as we have understood. They are the sons and daughters of life longing for itself. See, my dear students, the line, "They are the sons and daughters of life." You have seen the life is written with capital letter, that is, life is personified here. It is not our life. Life is treated as a person. The classes, lower classes, you have studied the figure of speech. Normally, when we ask, all the children will speak of 3 figures of speech: simile, metaphor, personification. More, there are totally 26, but they know these 3. Simile, metaphor, and personification. Metaphor will come at the end of the poem. So, life is personified. So, what the prophet says, life wants to bring forth life, longing for itself. Longing for itself means life wants to express itself. Life goes on for ever. It never stops. Alfred Lord Tennyson's the famous simple poem The Brook, where the poet says, men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. I meet the brook. Men are born, men are dead, but the river flows forever and ever. We speak of the Kaveri. How many generations have seen the Kaveri, the water flowing uninterruptedly? All those who have seen her flowing are dead, but still the Kaveri flows. Life like that. Men may come, men may go. That is, men are born, men are dead. But life goes on forever. This life never dies. Man dies, woman dies, life never dies. It goes on and on. It wants to express itself. So when life wants to express itself, it is just like a great artist wants to paint a picture. The picture is taking shape in his mind. He takes brush, he takes colors, he takes canvas, and he begins to paint. That is giving expression to the ideas that are in his mind. When the picture is complete and beautiful, the brush cannot claim it is my painting. The color cannot claim it is my painting. Canvas cannot claim it is my painting. It is the painting of the painter. He has used colors, canvas, and brush to translate what are there in his mind into this canvas. So the credit goes to the painter. For you to understand better, when you write something in your notebook, suppose you have beautiful handwriting, you write it so beautifully, so artistically. Once we look at the notebook or some students, we feel to look at it again because so beautiful handwriting. But the pen the student has used cannot claim my writing is beautiful. It is credit does not go to the pen. Credit goes to the child who has wielded the pen to write. So, what writing is there has come from the brains of the child, not from the pen he has used. Like this, my dear students, what the prophet says, your children are not your children. Your pen should not claim the goodness of handwriting to itself. The credit goes to you. So prophet says, when you say our children, prophet says your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life, longing for itself. Longing ಅಂದರೆ that wants to express itself, cannot control the feeling of expressing. So, they are the children of life. Life, who gives life? Life gives life. Please understand. Life gives life. That is, life comes from life. Life does not come from parents. But parents are used by life as an instrument to bring forth life to the world. As you have used your pen to write what is in your mind on the paper, life has used parents as a medium to bring life to the world. Parents have no life to give. When parents die, life will go on. How many generations have passed through this earth, but life still goes on. As Tennyson says, men may come, men may go, but life goes on forever. Life goes. Life brings life. Life comes from life, not from parents. So don't claim your child is your child. You are just the custodian of your child. Life has entrusted this child to you so that you take care of it when it needs your care. When it needs your care, you have to take care of the child. Only that much. Nothing more, nothing less. They are the sons and daughters of life longing for itself. They come through you. Through means you are a medium. You are a medium. They come through you, but not from you. You are not the author of life. You are not the giver of life. But you don't have a life to give. You are not a giver. Life gives life, but you are used as a medium, as an instrument to bring forth life. So don't claim more than what you deserve. Maybe you are a wonderful medium. They come through you, but not from you. That is, you don't have the ownership of the child. You don't have any authority over the child. You have only the guardianship of the child. And though they are with you, they don't belong to you. Once the baby is born, it is the responsibility of the parents to take care of them. You have to take care. You have to give all that a human being needs in its infancy to come forth in life. The three basic needs: food, shelter, clothing. But above all, you have to love the child. A child should not be love-starved. The quality of the child depends much on the affection the child has received in its infancy. That's why we find, sad to say, where parents are not there to take care of the needs of the children. The children's life is something miserable. All around we find orphanages where the children are kept because they have no parents to take care of them, and they grow up as love-starved children without a chance to enjoy life, without someone to satisfy our needs. So, what the poet is telling, you are responsible for the upbringing of the child because life has chosen you as the medium to bring forth life. So you see, every day you see, and many of you are interested in playing or watching the cricket match, the batsman bats, they might hit sixes of boundaries. But you see, before batting, as they come to the field, they select the bat. They select the bat and they hold the bat, they swing the bat just to test it, how it works. Like that, life has tested you, parents, and selected you to bring forth the child. And once the life has selected you to bring forth life, the life that has come through you, you have to take care. Most importantly, you have to love the child. Love is the most important requisite for a child to grow up happily. Along with that, you have to give them food, shelter, clothing, three basic necessities mankind needs. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts. Love. You have to love. And you see how parents enjoy when children love them. When the baby first time calls Amma, Amma, what a heavenly happiness glows on the face of the mother. And when the mother plays with the baby, how happy the baby becomes. That happiness, the result of love. This love you have to give to your child. Love. It is a substance of life. Sum and substance. But you don't give your ideas to your child. The Prophet is very categorical and the Prophet is very critical and the poet is very rigid towards the attitude of the parents. He is warning them, never give them your thoughts. Give them food, give them shelter, give them clothing, give them, lavish them with your overflowing love, but please never give your thoughts, your ideas to your children, for they have their own thoughts. Leave them free. Leave them free. By giving love and basic needs, you have to stop. That is the Lakshman Rekha. Beyond that Rekha is the ideas and thoughts. You shouldn't enter into that field. You don't tutor. You don't brainwash the child given to your care with your ideas and thoughts. Why? They develop their own ideas. So, my dear students, we stopped here. We continue the same in our next session. Thank you.